Hi, I'm Stanley Beckett from Change Creator, and thank you for joining me on this most important talk. It could be the one talk that changes all the results for you going forward. At Change Creator, we believe in measuring, and we believe in three of the most important things, which is self-measurement, self-care, self-regulation. And today we are going to share with you why these three things are probably the reason you're not achieving the results you want in your life. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with you as we move into the understanding of how do we bridge what we call this knowing-doing gap. Right, so let us start in the beginning. What is it that we all have in common, that we all want? And that is that we want to change the results in our lives. Whatever that result might be for you, you might want to increase your financial situation and make that better. You might want to start a new business. Or, like many of us, you might look at yourself and go, you know what, I'm not as healthy as I used to be. I don't like the way I look, and maybe it's time to make a change there. Maybe you need to make a change in your relationship. I think the point that we're trying to make here is that you already know what you want, firstly, and secondly, in most instances, you already know how to get there. You know the steps that are needed. But here's the question: why are you not getting there? What is holding you back? I have been studying this specific topic for many years, and I started off by looking at the results people were getting and asking myself that specific question. Why are people's results not changing, even though they know what they want, even though they know what it is they need to do? And I want you to start off by asking yourself this question. My results, have they largely remained the same in the last few years, even though I knew I wanted them to change? So we are going to dig a little bit further, and down in this digging phase, you are going to hopefully find an answer that is going to move you forward. So let's take the first step down. The first step down is where we move from results. In order to change results, you need to take action. You need to change. You know, it's very easy to say things in my life need to change, but in order for things in your life to change, you need to change. So the question is, how do you change? What is your plan of action to change? What are the action steps you are going to take to change? I'm willing to bet that in most instances, you already know the answer to that question. If you do not know what it's going to take, as an example, to change your physical fitness, it's very easy to find out, and you can research and find out what you need to eat, how you need to exercise. But here's the point, is that even though you know that, you are still the one that needs to take action. So studying this, I started asking myself, why do people struggle to take action? And it was studying this that I came upon a formula. By the way, I love formulas and I love measurement, and my belief is if you cannot measure, you cannot change. So how are you constantly measuring your change? How are you constantly measuring your progress? Well, there was this formula that we came up with called the Change Creator formula. And basically what the Change Creator formula says is the following. And that is, change will happen in your life. You will take action to create change in your life when your commitment towards that change is greater than your resistance to that change. Just think about that for a moment. Is your commitment, yes, I believe you're committed, and we're all committed to some degree or another. But can you honestly say, have you ever measured to see, is my commitment towards this change I wish to bring into my life, is it greater than our resistance? Do you even know what's creating resistance in your life? For that matter, do you even know what creates commitment in your life? Commitment isn't just saying, I want something. It's a lot deeper than that. So do you understand where your level of commitment is compared to your level of resistance? For many years, I've been working with organizations worldwide, teaching them how to identify the commitment to change as opposed to the resistance to change. But then I started realizing that even that is not enough. We need to go deeper. So if you perhaps do know, and if you can sit there today saying, I actually do know where my commitment level is, I do know what my resistance variable is, but I'm still not able to create the change, then we need to go the next step down. And the next step down has to do with a word that we might know, but that we don't always understand as well as we should. And that is called grit. In order to create change in life, it takes a tremendous amount of grit. And you know, when it comes to grit, we tend to think of I call it grit 1.0, the old style of grit. The old style of grit was all about working as hard as you can, hustle, 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 getting up every morning and putting in your best effort. Now, I'm not saying that that isn't necessary, but what I'm saying is it the right kind of grit? So the right kind of grit, is it a good grit as opposed to a bad grit? Is it a smart grit as opposed to a dumb grit? And is it a powerful grit as opposed to a weak grit? So once we understand this, we understand how to develop grit. We understand that without the right level of grit, we cannot change the commitment versus the resistance. We are not going to take action. And once again, we are not going to get the results we want. This year, myself and my partner have been working very hard with organizations and individuals to develop this grit, but still, even understanding that grit was where the problem was, we still found people had a resistance to it. And that takes us down the next level. So what is the next level? Why are people reluctant to develop the grit? Well, that's going to depend on what we call the 4 cups system. In other words, imagine that you have these 4 cups and they need to be full all the time. The 1 cup is your emotional grit. The other cup is your mental grit. The 3rd cup is your physical grit. And the 4th cup is what we call your spiritual grit. Depending on what you've been through, depending on the circumstances you experience every single day, you drink from these cups. And you are always filling these cups up or lowering these cups depending on the situation. But here's the thing, because we're not aware of it, many people are not filling these cups up again. These last 2-3 years, we've all experienced a lot of emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical drain because of the circumstances, because of COVID, because of the economy, because of so many things that are causing us stress every single day. These cups become empty, and here we go again. If these cups are empty, you are not going to develop the grit you need to change the commitment levels and resistance levels to take action and to get the results you want. And then we're going to go to the final step, and this is really what we are focusing on this year. You are not going to fill those cups unless you understand this final step. And the final step is that research shows that 80 to 90% of people worldwide are suffering from what we call burnout. Are you burnt out? And if you think that you might not be burnt out, let me share with you that there are 12 stages to burnout. We sometimes, and we oft think of burnout as only the final stage when a person has had a complete mental, spiritual, emotional breakdown. But that is only the final stages. We have now discovered that there are 12 stages of burnout. And if you are on any of those stages, and the research shows that up to 90% of people, which probably includes you, are on one of those stages of burnout, then unless you are doing the work to fill these cups again, to develop that grit again, to understand this process, you are heading towards those more severe stages of burnout. So this is my suggestion to you, is to really start from the bottom down and to ask yourself, number 1, am I suffering from burnout? Number 2, if I'm not suffering from burnout, are my cups full? Is my mental, my spiritual, my emotional, my physical cup, is it full the way I need it to be, to move to the 3rd step, which is number 3? Do I have the right level and amount and kind of grit that's needed to be able to move to the 4th step? The 4th step being, can I develop the commitment towards my goal that's needed to overcome the challenges that will be there? And do I have the right amount of grit to work against the resistance factor? And only once those things have been put in place, only then will you effectively take action. Only then will all the coaching programs, all the books you're reading, all the seminars you've been attending really start helping you to bridge what we spoke about in the beginning, that knowing, doing gap. And then you will see the most amazing changes in your results. So thank you for sharing this time with me. And I hope that you can really take something out of this, that the problem does not lie in anything that you're doing. The problem doesn't even lie with you. The challenge lies in you going to the root and deciding, am I burnt out? Do my cups need to be filled? Do I need to develop the right kind of grit? Do I need to create the right kind of commitment to take action? And if you get that right, all the results in your life will start to change. Thank you.
Let's talk about your test for clients. What is the story your customers are going to remember? Now, when you're thinking about sharing your business story, you want to share the heart. People buy the person, not the product. So you want to think about how do you make that emotional connection with your potential customers or even your already existing customers. And this can even apply to investors. If you have a good story to tell about your business, why you started, cool and interesting things that happened while setting up your business, or even a fun way that you ended up on your product, those create nice stories that people remember, and those customers can connect with you, but they can also go forward and share your story and why other people should support your business. Another good thing to think about when sharing your business story, particularly around your products and services, is to share the difference between the function and the benefits. So it's good to know that you have a phone and your phone can make phone calls, it can send SMSs, you can go online. Those are all great functional aspects. But what are the benefits of people having a phone? They can connect with family, they can take pictures by capturing important moments. Those are the benefits people want to hear about that makes them buy into your business. So you've got this idea, you've got your product, you've got your service, but what's the story? What is the hook that you can share with people that will connect with them emotionally? Write down your emotional connection, the functions of your product and service, but more importantly, what are the benefits that will help people connect with your business and your product? Our action steps will follow shortly.
You're watching HybriCON, and that was Stanley Beckett, who talks about the kind of measurements you have to have in place and how it is that you have to go about getting results for what it is that you wish. Thank you so much, Stanley. That was really so interesting. I want to start by asking you about this commitment that people have. I mean, why is it so hard to get commitment?
Yeah, because we don't understand commitment. You know, people think they just saying you're wanting something is being committed to it. Commitment is a lot more than that. And you must remember, not only are we dealing with being committed, we're dealing with the resistance that comes on the other side as well, which is in most instances much stronger than the commitment until you build the commitment up. And I think one of the biggest problems and one of the biggest challenges for people, Nico, is that there's a saying I have that if you cannot measure, you cannot improve. And I think that people struggle to measure, and that's really where we came in, and what we decided to do is ask the question, how do we measure the immeasurables? Is you can start measuring, you can really start regulating, and you can really start taking more care. And I think that that's in between, that is where the challenge lies, is people inside are committed, but they don't understand the other variables that work against them. That's it.
And also, I mean, rightfully so, if so many people are suffering from burnout without even knowing or understanding this, it's a tool that you need to start just recognizing what those stages are that you're talking about.
Absolutely. It's kind of like being ill. You would go to a doctor to have a checkup. That's a form of measurement, right? To measure how ill am I really, where does the problem lie? In the same way, I think we need to be doing the same thing when it comes to our own lives, to our goals, to the things we want to achieve. There needs to be some kind of a system. That's why we work on what we call a SPOT system, which we use science, we use psychology, we use ontology and technology. And I think we've advanced so much as human beings that we should start using these kind of technology. We should start using science to measure. And in the same way with burnout, I think I've yet to meet someone that I speak to that doesn't admit they're suffering from some form of burnout.
Yeah.
But where am I on the scale? And depending on where I am is going to have a big influence on how I deal with it. If you don't know that, then you are going to keep yourself stuck.
But now you're talking about the numbers, and I mean, just to go for a checkup, one needs to go, oh, I've got a headache, or I've got this pain here, or I've got a car, it doesn't start easily, or maybe it's, there's a problem that I can recognize.
Yeah.
If we're not even attuned to recognizing these problems, how do we get to start self-regulating? And then my question would be, are there enough doctors in the world or people, specialists who can help us to check up?
Great questions. The first one is, I think it's a very important question, Nico, is that if we don't even know we're having a problem, this is where the majority of people are. They don't know they have a problem because they've been living with that state for so long that they regard it as normal. So the first thing we need to do is have these kind of conversations.
Sure.
Because it's in these kind of conversations that somebody listening goes, actually, he's talking about me. I never realized it's not okay to not sleep well at night.
There you go.
I never realized it's not okay to feel so detached from my job, from my family, from people around me. That's a big sign of, I mean, you just have to go and look around and look at yourself if you're listening to this. How are you feeling every day? Are you feeling more and more detached from life? Do you feel that excitement you used to have is waning? That's not a normal state. That's a sign something is going on. But if people are not talking about this, then you're not going to know to check. So that's the first thing is, if your car's always had a rattle and somebody asks you one day, why is the car rattling? And you go, but it's always been there. And you say, but that's not normal.
No.
For the first time, you're going to check it out.
Yeah.
I'm saying that if you look at the symptoms, you'll start realizing that the way I feel every day is not normal. So onto your second point, which is also very important, there's not enough therapists in the world to help us all.
Sure.
But we don't all need therapists. It's only when you're at the very final stages of burnout that you need someone to assist you. So what we believe is really important is three things. Number one, how do you self-measure? Number two, how do you self-care? And then thirdly, how do you self-regulate, which you constantly need to be doing. So Change Creator, what we wish to do is to provide people with tools and means to do that on all the different levels, is self-measure, self-care, self-regulate.
And we're going to get back to that as well. So right now, if somebody is sitting there saying, yes, I realize the spark is gone, or maybe the first thing that they need to do is just start dialing in a little bit. I suppose it's much like when you finished eating a big meal and there was a lot of bread, you start feeling a lull. So what are those initial feelings, would you say, that one looks out for?
Look, I think it's always there. I think it's the very first step towards change always is, and even in this process, there's 4 steps. The very first step is awareness. That is, I think, what we are wanting to create here. Let's just create the awareness as a first step. Once you have the awareness, the next step is acceptance. If you do not accept that there's something going on, you're not going to change it.
Fix it for sure.
Once you've created the acceptance, the next step then is commitment. So you need to commit to a plan of action, but in order to do that, you need to measure. You need to know where I'm at, where I want to go, and what am I committed to. And then the final step is to take action. Too many people are just running into the action, but they aren't aware of where the problem is. They haven't accepted their responsibility, and it's always outside of me's responsibility, and they haven't committed to the right kind of action. So those are the steps we want to go into: acceptance, awareness, commitment, take action.
Okay. So, and I think as we're about to get out of this segment, what I'm going to suggest to somebody watching this is that first dial in is really important. Get going with that. And right after the break, we're going to talk more to Stanley a little bit about what it is that his company does and how these tools can work for you, what tools are out there. Don't go away. We'll be back with HybriCON right after this. We've put all the great High Noon live shows in one place for your convenience. Look out for H&L's greatest moments. Next, make a date to catch us live right here on LinkedIn. On Mondays, catch Ntsikim Kize with business, how-to and mentorship. On Tuesdays, Ursula Buerta with confidence and presence. Wednesdays see Nikki Bush dancing with disruption, women empowerment and reinvention. On Thursdays, Nico Stain with storytelling, structure and presentation. And Fridays, Joni Petty presents sleep, resilience and bouncing forward. Watch High Noon live on LinkedIn. Weekdays at 12, South African Standard Time. Welcome back, and we're talking to Stanley Beckett about burnout and about the signs. And I wanted to get right in there with the kind of tools, Stanley, that you guys have. I mean, in your organization, obviously you work with large corporates and bigger numbers of people. Is that right?
Yeah, we do, and look, that's where the tools are really important, is because when we work with organizations, we want to understand on an individual level, but we also need to understand on a higher corporate level. As I say to corporates all the time, when it comes to a subject as important and that influences so many things as burnout, burnout is not a me problem, it's a we problem.
Okay.
Why I say that is because too many times in the past, corporates would look at, for example, a Nico and say, well, Nico's burnt out, Nico needs to get help. We have got a wellness center, let's send him there and let him deal with that. But the question is, why is the corporate creating the conditions for burnout to happen in the first place? Right? If one person like a Nico, for example, had to be burnt out, that means the conditions exist for anybody to get burnt out. And people in the organization probably are just on different stages. So we need to stop thinking as that final stage of burnout when I'm completely
when somebody's falling over already.
As burnout. Burnout starts from the person who's waking up every day. And I just want to share with everybody, the first stage of burnout is probably where you can at least identify with as a start already. Do you sit at home, and this has happened the last 2 years, 3 years, even more than before, Nico, is that people sit at home, now they're working from home, but now the problem is they can never switch off. Yeah. So we think working hard only means I'm physically working. No. If you find yourself constantly thinking about work, going to sleep thinking about work, waking up at night, you're answering emails at 10 o'clock at night, you're answering emails first thing, you're on WhatsApp all the time. You cannot seem to switch off. You are already at stage 3, burnout. Right? Really? Okay. So it's really important to know. And for businesses, if businesses are going to keep growing, and especially in this tough economy we find ourselves in, we need to identify what's creating the burnout. So what we do is we have our tools. We are constantly researching. We also have very good partners that work in the areas of psychology, industrial, corporate psychology, that are constantly monitoring it. So we realize that we don't know everything, but it's the more we research, the more we are learning. And I'm coming back again to the point that not only should each individual personally be constantly monitoring, like you monitor your health. If you were diabetic, you'd be monitoring your blood levels all the time. In the same way, burnout, we should be monitoring it all the time, not only individually, but on a corporate level as well.
And I think, I mean, now if you start talking about measurement, I mean, what type of typical measurement tools are there, for example, just on a broad scale?
Well, it would depend on what you're measuring. On a burnout level, we would, for example, measure on each individual 3 things. Number 1, what is your energy level every day at work? Number 2, we call it your cynicism level, your depersonalization. Have you depersonalized, stepped back, disengaged from your work, from life, from your family, from friends? We need to measure that. And then the third one is levels of achievement. Do you still enjoy what you're doing? Do you feel you enjoy achieving? This comes from a professor by the name of Maslach back in the 1980s already, this research and the study into understanding these 3 areas. The next thing we would need to measure is what are the conditions at work that are creating the burnout? Most people only think of one, and that is workload. Workload is only one of 6 things that create burnout. Do we understand this, and are we measuring it? And then the last thing is your stages of burnout. Once we understand those 3 things in a combination for each individual and for organization, then we can start creating an individualized, and this is important, individualized plan. You cannot have the same plan for everybody. Each person needs a separate plan. So what we do at Change Creators, we go into organizations, we help them measure these things, we help them mitigate the burnout, and I think that's really important, is that we actually really need to start making it legislative that companies should be mitigating burnout as a cause of concern countrywide.
Absolutely, that's where I was going to go next. Now, if you think about somebody in a corporate sitting there saying, listen, my team probably needs this help, I mean, what would the first step be, other than obviously contacting you and beginning to start that conversation? What should a company be ready for if they're going to engage with you?
Well, look, the first step would be obviously us going in and doing an assessment with the organization. Once we've done a proper assessment, we can show the and this it's just always so surprising for the organization where the burnout is coming from.
Sure.
And I don't believe that organizations do not want to tackle this problem. I think that many just don't know where to start.
It's
so
a
we
conundrum,
would give
yeah.
that starting point, and then we would work hand in hand with the organization to see if we can, what's the way forward, not only organization but individual wise, and at what level do you need to bring in more professional help.
Yeah, and then of course there's no quick fix for this. This is ongoing. It becomes almost a culture inside a company, surely. Yeah.
I love using the example of the hare and the tortoise. You know, this is a tortoise process. It's going to start slow, and it's going to take a little longer to dig in. But if you go to that route, you will see if the business can sort that out, they will become the hare overnight. In other words, the results for the business, because what is a business? A business is nothing more than the people in the organization. Change the people, you change the organization. If you get that right, there's nothing that the organization can't do going forward, but you have to start and you have to be patient, because many people are already at the severe stages of burnout. Their cups are empty. They've got no more grit, nothing to give. You first need to develop that. And once you've got that foundation right again, then anything becomes possible for a business.
That's it. Now I'm going to ask, if somebody wants to get hold, what are those first steps? Where can they find you?
Well, they can find us online, where our website is changecreatorsa.com. But I also invite them always to email me personally, stanley@changecreatorsa.com. And we always respond within the first day already of getting information. We'll get back to you as soon as possible, and we can talk about some possible steps and what we can do moving forward. But you know, the first step is take that action, send that email, and we'll take it from there.
As with everything, once that intention starts, you have to see it through and take action.
Absolutely.
I love that. That was a good lesson. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to say thank you very much to Stanley for joining us. And obviously, please do look out for more material that he's going to be presenting during the HybriCON. It was really fabulous to have you here for this session. Thank you very much for your time. Be sure to check in on some other talks coming up today.